buenas tardes, good afternoon. I like to say that you are not truly inducted as a teacher until you have learned a lesson from one of your students. I'm an activist. I teach activism and civic engagement, but I didn't begin my career doing so. When I was asked to participate in this event, I decided to seek the help of my former students, and I sent a message, something that went like, if you think that teaching you activism has helped you in your lives, your careers, please send me a 1-minute video. I was overwhelmed by their response. Luckily, the young woman most responsible for my teaching of activism was one of the respondents. This is Jackie Acosta. Jackie was in my English class during her 9th and 10th grade year. She was a quiet, shy little girl, amazing writer, eloquent and very analytical. She went straight to AP English, and I was sure that there was nothing that would get in her way of success. Shortly after turning 16, like many other kids, she decided it was time to get a driver's license. And she couldn't understand why her parents were so resistant. This is where the story unfolds. Jackie, who thought had been born in Texas, learned that in fact, she had been born in Guanajuato, Mexico, and she was undocumented. This tore apart her identity in seconds, and her whole future was in limbo. In 2004, students like her ran the risk of being deported, did not qualify for any financial assistance, and even if she managed to graduate, what was she supposed to do with a degree? She wasn't allowed to work. We were both devastated, but Jackie was persistent. She decided that her best option was to start at her local community college because of the costs. And there she met a group of young people, the Dreamers, who shared her circumstances, and she joined them in the fight in being allowed to have a future in this country. She started inviting me to rallies, and what I saw opened my eyes. I saw a young, quiet girl finding her voice, advocating not only for her future, but for the futures of others. She was using all the strategies she had learned in school, but she was also using her passion, her sense of purpose to find strategies so that their message could resonate with a broader audience. Jackie graduated from UCI, and she earned a master's degree from Cal State Long Beach and is a special education teacher today. The Dreamers were able to get deferred action for childhood arrivals passed, which allows them to work in the United States, makes them eligible for financial aid, and they are no longer in fear of being deported. Jackie somehow did this in spite of the fact that none of us, her teachers, had taught her anything outside the academic realm. And this is where I had to do some digging. I realized I had not prepared my own students, given them the skills they needed to fight in real life, to face real life struggles. My student had taught me the greatest lesson, and I would pass this along to my future students. I think that Jackie's story had such a profound impact on me because I had a horrible time finding my path. Like so many students whose stories and voices are not heard in the curriculum, I couldn't connect to the content. I grew apathetic. I didn't enroll at any university right after high school. And it wasn't until I became an instructional assistant that I found my purpose. For the first time, I felt needed. This is a section of the new California English Language Arts, English Language Development. And I feel that my commitment to teaching activism and civic engagement meets these expectations. As you can see, we have in the very last annotation there says, take action to improve conditions, viewing themselves as players in the world and participating reflectively. I also work on developing 3 other qualities in my students so that they can find their purpose through activism. 1, empathy. 2, critical skills. And 3, a global perspective. Let's begin with empathy. The ability to understand and be sensitive to how others are feeling. Empathy is a necessary quality to include in our curriculum, and as educators, we must lead by example. Not too long ago, I had a young female student, Muslim, come to my class in tears because someone she had a high regard for had expressed that he agreed that all Muslims should be ousted from the United States until it was clear that they were no longer a danger. I was speechless. And all I could do was ask her if I could hold her. And I did, as she sobbed. Our students are listening to this type of rhetoric. And if we don't give them the ability to deal with it in a constructive manner, if we don't give a face to all the people on all sides of these issues, we run the risk that they become victims, or worse yet, the ones victimizing. Empathy can only lead them halfway. They need the critical thinking skills to be able to understand the situations that arise today. Let's take a look at another section of the ELA-ELD framework. Investigate the world beyond their immediate environment, framing significant problems and conducting well-crafted and age-appropriate research. Take action to improve conditions, viewing themselves as players in the world and participating reflectively. How many of you do current events? I do too. And I can't think of a better means to cover these standards than having students analyze what is affecting them. I remember after 9/11, people kept saying, focus on the helpers. And I decided to do just that in my current event research paper. My students are asked to research a topic that they feel passionate about. And they have to answer the following guiding questions. Define the problem or situation. What is the root of the problem? How does it affect our community or world? Who are the professionals fighting to make this right? How can the public help? I find that focusing on the last 2 questions helps my students make a transition from we are being victimized to what do we do to solve this problem? This defines activism and civic engagement. This has also helped many of my students decide their future careers. In the following video, you will see Angelica Ruiz, and she's talking a little bit about the activism that she does through her career.
My name is Angelica Ruiz. I recently graduated from Cal State Fullerton last year, double major in health science and women and gender studies. Currently, I'm in the executive fellowship program that's through the governor's office in Cal State Sacramento. I'm placed at the California Environmental Protection Agency, and I'm working on environmental justice. And what that means is a lot of communities are disproportionately impacted by pollution sources, and most of the time these communities are communities of color or poor communities. And so it's my job to help create policies or implement policies that make it a more equitable playing ground for communities of color who don't have access to resources. Something that I remember about learning about going back to your community was when we were at House on Mango Street. And something that she always said, and she still says today, that really resonated with me was always going back for the ones who are left behind. And that really resonated with me because a lot of times we might want to move out of our community and go and do bigger and better things. That's what we're told, that we need to leave. And I think that's important, but it's also reminded me that we need to leave, but it's also important to come back for the people who don't have those resources, who don't have those mentors. Growing up, I'm the oldest, I didn't have a lot of people to look up to, and Ms. Gracia really provided that mentorship and guidance. The reason I think activism in the classroom is extremely important is because oftentimes students come to the classroom and teachers often tell them, have an objective, think of things objectively, don't use bias, but unfortunately, a lot of the history that we're learning is very biased. So it's important to come to the classroom and be able to be critical, and then go back home and be able to use that experience and critically apply it to your life.
Recently, Angelica had the opportunity to meet with Governor Brown, and from what I hear, he got an earful. The last component is the global perspective. Remember, the framework's goal mentions broadening our students' worldview. I believe bilingualism or biliteracy falls under gaining a global perspective. We should be teaching our students the importance of being biliterate. I'm very proud of the steps that my district, the Anaheim Union High School District, and the feeder district, Anaheim Elementary, have been taking to assure that our students are biliterate. And I know that a lot of other districts are opening the door to make this a reality. In a global economy, our students' future depends on how well they are able to acclimate different perspectives, different environments, and different languages. I can't think of any former student who has not benefited from being bilingual, but I can think of many who are either improving or learning a second language in order to advance in their careers. Teaching activism and civic engagement requires courage and stepping out of our comfort zone, but it works. I would like to end this talk with a quote that has become a mantra in my classroom. It comes from the house of Mango Street. They will not know I have gone away to come back. For the ones I left behind, for the ones who cannot out. I want to invite you. Let's make sure our students become the activists who come back for the ones who are left behind. Thank you.